but most of the time you see industry going its way and academicians thinking about research in their own way. So a little bit of my experiences I'm going to put across, and I'm sure there are people in the audience with much more experience than me, but I'm targeting more of those who are going to be future into one of these two shoes, either industry or academics. This is the place that I come from, Institute of Science, Education and Research. Just one slide about my institute. This is our tagline, where tomorrow's science begins today. We have a 5-year ASMS program where a student joins. I especially heard in the morning about education being divided into silos. Here, at least within science, we don't do that. Students join as BSMS Science, and after 3 semesters of all science subjects, the student openly will pick electives from different departments. So at the end, they may graduate BSMS Science or BSMS major in physics, biology, whatever. We graduate about 250 bachelors every year. We have about 700 doctoral students, a little over 100 graduating every year. Coming to the topic itself, when we do research only, but if it is interesting and exciting, falls in the domain of art. If one can find ways of making money with it, it has commercial value. I would call it research in technology. If you can add precision in manufacturing, usually needing mathematics, that's where engineering comes into picture. And this does not always happen, if we go to the understanding of the why of that phenomenon as to why that is happening, then it gets into the domain of science. Also, when you say research, you are also thinking of training a good researcher, and of course, the practical value of being a researcher in the society. But let me now differentiate between what happens with industrial research and academic research. In academic research, we think that we are advancing frontiers of knowledge, and the research results should be known to the entire world through publication. Our focus is also on training people, either for industry or government or academia, but training is the major focus. New results, yes, any research will require that, but focus on people rather than the content of the work. The impact of the work in terms of where it will be used or where it will go after I complete the research often is ignored in comparison to the impact. Now, those of you who are in publication, you would know what I mean by impact factor, but for students, impact factor is more about how many people read your or that journal where you publish it. Often, whether it has any application at all will take a backseat, and how many people cite that paper takes precedence. Also, in the basic science field where I am right now, very often people think that fundamental science or basic science means or is defined as what is not applied, which is obviously not true, but that is how many people interpret basic science. But generic research, sort of research where understanding improves, doesn't necessarily directly result into an application. If not academics, who will do it? But that should not be the only thing, but let me come to that. We want to stretch the boundaries of knowledge, but the biggest worry an academician will always have is the continual worry about funding, even if you have a great idea. Whether I will have funding right now, and whether in the first year I spent the amount which was given for first year, otherwise it will be taken back, for the second year I will get less amount of grant. All that has to be the biggest worry for a researcher. In fact, for many good academicians, you will see if they have one project coming to them every year, they are spending time in writing maybe 10 or 15 project proposals. Now, industrial research is somewhat different. First of all, it is designed for competition, not necessarily for, or actually not usually for sharing knowledge with others. Industry will be interested in, can I beat my competition using this research? Most often, it is a short-term interest because each year or perhaps even each quarter, they are worried about what will be its impact. Unlike an academician who thinks in terms of 5 years and maybe the 6th year as an extension year for the PhD program. And they can't afford because their priorities are different. Basic research, publishable research, usually they can't afford. If at all they do it, maybe just so that they can show they have publications too, but major aim is not that. Funding, on the other hand, is rarely going to be an issue. If you have the right idea, which benefits the company, you will get the funds. Of course, the aim being you have to contribute to the bottom line quarter after quarter. Even if you are going to give that project to an academician, you will think in that direction that every quarter I need to have a benefit seen from it. And novelty is required for patenting, but the primary purpose is outdoing competition. If that is enough, something which is not patentable is going to be sufficient for me to beat my competition, industrial research is still happy about it. Scientific breakthroughs, are they interested? Yes, if they find it in public domain. But they are not going to be spending time, money and people invested in doing some research which might give a scientific breakthrough which may work after 10 years as a commercial value. No. So patents and commercialization rather than publishing and conferences and how to get more grants. The worry points, pain points are entirely different. So now when these two try to come together, the first worry an industry will have when they come to you, an academician for research, my research is going to be seen by everybody else, all other students, is there confidential? The solution to that is of course have a non-disclosure, confidential disclosure agreement, but that is where a discussion with industry will start even before it gets into a research project. Second thing is the speed. We academicians will say, oh, my student had a baby this year, she got married, she had a baby, so my project is delayed by 1 year. It is still acceptable that the project will be completed after 5 years, but no, not for industry. It has to be at a particular speed, timely deliverables, and that's another thing. Normally, EST, DBT, CSIR will give us money for 1 year, and if you completely spend it that 1 year, then next year's amount will be released. Here, just because the year is ended, you are not going to get the next tranche. Have you completed those deliverables? Then you can ask for the next one. Not just because the time period is over. And academicians, me included, often start with something and they launch into tangents because something else interesting came up. You spend most of the time in looking for the answers there, which is curiosity driven, and you think I am about to find something good, so I spend a lot of time on the tangent, but the main aim for which the industry may have given funds remains aside, and industry most certainly does not like that, and it is looking for having at the end an IPR, a technology or something with which they will draw the benefit. So prime worries of academician, which is funding versus the industry situation, developing and training individuals. Publication is the most primary because my next promotion is going to look at how many papers I published, what was the impact factor. Rarely anybody is going to ask me whether it helped many industries or something which came out as an industrial product out of it. And the sad truth is, rarely will anybody even ask during your promotion, how were you as a teacher? But that's a secret for some other time. So, but when industry comes to academicians for research, first thing, industry needs to have confidence in our scientists. How many times I would have heard this question, if I take something new, has it been done before? Has somebody else done it? Has it been already implemented in the West? If that was the case, I wouldn't be working on it as a researcher. But very often industry is first worried about that, and their confidence level in our scientists should improve. They have industry people, now I am addressing the academicians. Industry people have their own conferences where all the industrial priorities, commercial priorities, shared difficulties amongst the similar industries are all discussed. But these are not the conferences we academicians attend. Academicians will be attending conferences where new paper is getting presented for somebody, irrespective of whether it is useful to an industry or not. But we should, academicians, go and attend these industry conferences where common problems faced by different industries are shared, where if you interact better, some industry is going to come to you saying that, oh, you are asking that question. That means maybe you know something more about it, can you help us, we have this problem. Not many industries actually will have the scientific know-how. Many industries will also lack the kind of equipments that academicians will have. So in the end, if an industry says, no, we will do it ourselves, even if they have the scientific know-how, it is going to cost them easily 5 times over what it will cost an academician to do the same. So the message to the industry is that please consider us academicians as your R&D partners. Sponsored research, even if we academicians sometimes feel instead of 10 lakhs, I have told you 20 lakhs. But you industrialists know very well that if you were to do it, it would have been probably 50 or 70 lakhs, which means if you sponsor research with academics, you will be finding it less expensive than doing it yourself. Your overheads and everything else is much higher. IPR is another pain point. If you look at some of the US universities, they used to insist that the IPR belongs to the university and an industry can only license it year to year. And some of the universities also, they think that they must own the entire IP. Now both are not the correct ways of doing it. IPR must be shared, so on the day one itself, industry can use it for commercial benefit for no additional payment. But at the end of the project, if the industry feels that part of the right remaining with the university is a problem for them, they should have the right of making an additional payment and buying that right out completely, so that the IPR then belongs completely to the industry. Payments are never going to be because the year is over and my money is finished and my student needs to be paid fellowship for the 13th month. No, payment will only be on the basis of deliverables. You achieve those deliverables before you can get your money, but not just because time period is over. And since our primary goal is training a researcher and publishing, appeal to industry people, please let us publish at least some part of the work that we do. Saying all this with the background that many industries have worked with, this thank you is to all of you and to the industries who have helped with various parts of the work. If I missed some industry, please accept my apologies. Thank you.